Hi, Fiery Drake. Thanks for the support over on YouTube. Good morning, everyone who is joining us from YouTube or Twitch. I'm streaming to both today. Just kind of slowly getting my head around what the project needs doing. I'm doing a little bit on this every day, but I only stream it once a week. So it's easier to schedule things when you schedule less things. And I know if I want to do a full-time thing of the streaming, I really need to do it every day, but I have other stuff. I have the game, I have videos to make. I don't have a dedicated space for doing all this, so yeah, just doing what I can. I thought if I commit to every Tuesday, then I'll at least have done something on stream. And also, it means, oh, my mic is down. It also means that the game will have advanced a little bit between each week, because there will be gaps in what you see. What am I trying to do? Okay. Hey folks. Hey Stanley. Hey Lawyer. There is a form and a system for submitting games. There's no use asking me over chat because I won't remember. And I have a system for doing that. So there's even an instruction on the screen about how to do it. So yeah. What am I doing? Okay, I'm just trying to find where my code for drawing the rooms when you make a new room is. Cool. Well, I'll get round to it when I get round to it, if I do. There is no guarantee that every game that gets submitted will get played. It depends on whether I can fit into a theme, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's a spreadsheet with about 70 games in it at the moment. So when I pick games from that, it is very cold and objective. I just go through the list. Sometimes I'll look for a keyword like deck builder and I'll find 3 games that trigger that keyword, put them in a theme. Sometimes I'll more slowly go through the list and find out, okay, these games are games about cute animals, so we'll put them together. It is a big list. It's very difficult to sort, and I have to do a mix of kind of putting things in categories over time and just seeing what comes in. So it is not an easy thing to manage. Okay. This is the variable. I just want to quickly tweak alf. I like the name Paradox Patrol. Is it based on Paw Patrol at all? Is it like Chris Nolan's Paw Patrol? Paw Patrol stuck in a time loop. Paw Patrol, but it's really sad and about space. The Chris Nolan formula. What if sci-fi was sad and about families? Yeah. Yeah, this is a channel where I rip into your game, so it's not a good place to get your game seen by gamers, because most of the people that watch this channel haven't played a video game in years. So stuff I've added since, I think this is new since last week. I added these maps. You can see this beautiful graphic of a map. There's a room called a library, and it will eventually have books in it as well, but at the moment it just has maps in. You go in there, you get a map, it tells you the vault has been shuffled into your deck. So we've got this new concept of gold rooms, and you only get gold rooms by finding a map. And if you want to get all the maps in the library, you have to do a little bit of awkward building to get there. And but yeah, if you get all 3 maps, you get 3 gold rooms shuffled into your deck. One has loads of... There's something funny going on with when I pick up relics. They go into my hand instead of into my inventory straight away. So yeah, one of the rooms has 3 relics in, which gives you loads of power-ups. One of them has loads of treasure in, and one of them has loads of food in. So this is the reliquary, which has 3 relics in. I've got this weird bug with picking up relics, but I'm not going to focus on fixing that today because I think it could be a bit of a rabbit hole, and I've already worked out that we're doing spikes and fire today. So yeah, this is a gold room. It's currently just some gold bricks, and it's a bit eye-hurty, but I want it to feel like a big deal when you get one. I will eventually redraw this background to have some sort of banners, like red banners and stuff. I want this to feel like some sort of regal treasure room. So when people get the gold rooms, it feels like a big deal. My channel is about me just being mean, just an excuse to be mean to people, really. It's all I've ever really wanted. All I've ever really wanted in life was an excuse to be mean to people in public and be praised for it. And that's perfectly reasonable. It's a normal thing to want. A normal, healthy thing to want. And the refectory, which has snackies that you don't have to cook. High healthy brainoid. I've also added in some stuff to do with... I've basically redone what was not really a combat system. Before it was like I had a hurt box that when you punch it spawns it, and if that hits an enemy it hurts them. Now there is a type of impulse called a hurter that gets spawned whenever anything that should hurt anyone else does a thing. I've done a similar thing with lighting. I've done a similar thing with like force projection. So there are items here that you can't actually break by punching, because I didn't want players to be able to like break the food by punching it because it's too time consuming to make. But you can, when you punch, it creates a hurter to hurt enemies, but it also creates a force impulse to push things away. So that means you can like... You can punch stuff, and you can also do this little jumping Street Fighter Dragon Punch and a little slide kick now, which is all new. Very quick for me to iterate on because all of the attacks are just 1 frame. It's not even an animation, it's just 1 frame. I also added these, so when you look up and down, he's got a little... So there's some sort of explanation of why the camera is moving. And we've got a little bit of a sort of stun lock when you get hurt. Let's just slow down the whole game for a couple of frames. Just little game feely things. If you're going to have combat and getting hurt in your game, it needs to feel like it. It's probably one of the reasons why I put it off for so long, really. I wanted to make sure the core puzzle of the game made sense and worked. An Omni Shooter. Tell us what an Omni Shooter is. Someone was asking me what kind of genre I miss or would like to see more people do, and the type of FPS I would like to see more of. And maybe there are boomer shooters that have done this. I haven't played many of the new wave of boomer shooters. I have 2 lined up for Halloween because I wanted to play Brine and Frog Legs. I would like to see something like Time Splitters. And what I liked about Time Splitters is that every level was basically a different subgenre. It had horror levels, it had a spy level that was like GoldenEye, that was more stealthy. It just felt like it was using the time traveling to give you different genres, and it wasn't just it wasn't just different weapon loadouts. It was like each level was basically, it felt like a different game, and I would love to see more of that kind of thing. So if that's what you mean by an omni shooter, then great. I'm already sold on that idea. Alessandro, we are on Twitch. I'm multi-streaming on both. I'm not putting much effort into Twitch because YouTube is my home. But yeah, we have... I don't know how many followers we've got, but there's only ever like 5 people on Twitch. But I've got the multi-stream enabled so I can see you both. I don't know if it actually shows up on the screen, but I can see the multi-stream. I also completely arbitrarily decided that the gnome Snorri is a vegetarian and you can't sell him anything meat-based. It makes the selling bit of the game a little bit more difficult. And I also just like the thing that it's one of those things you just have to kind of work out as you play and then work out why it is. And it's just, oh, he's a gnome. He doesn't like meat. He likes vegetable soup. He likes a carrot. So if I get the refectory, it's given me 3 steaks. I can't sell him those. I can sell him this fruit pie. No, I can't, because I haven't added it to his array of things he wants to buy. So I will go and... I'll go and fix that, and then we're going to fix the spikes, because the spikes don't currently do any damage. And we are going to... we're gonna make the fire work a bit better, because the fire currently, it does the basic things, like you can use a torch to light other things, you can use other things to light a torch, but the actual burning down of things doesn't really work yet. So burning things is fun. Everyone likes burning things, so I think that's a very streamable activity, is programming burning things and talking about burning things. Sale price, shop value gnome, there we go. I think Gnome really likes fruit pies, so we're going to make this quite lucrative. 125 coins. And is it goat food? I think it is. I think a goat would eat that. It'd be very disappointing if a goat ate that, but hey, that's Sims for you. Yes. I mean, Aki, yeah, 3D survival game with heavy narrative. You think of The Forest, right? That's a team of about 30, if I remember rightly. No dialogue, no explicit dialogue in that game. There's a narrative, but it's all done through objects and recordings and stuff. And that's a team of 30, right? Anas, this game is about depression. Aki had a goat. I'm so jealous. I love goats. Scoping is a tough thing to figure out, because sometimes you do just need to do more because the game needs it. Scoping is important, but I also think it is part of this sort of professional roleplay that we all do, where you watch some GDC talks, you see some people that are doing game dev professionally talk about scoping, and you think, oh, I really need to care about scoping. And that's probably true if you're running a business, but most of us are doing something as a hobby, which we just hope we'll kind of luck out with and make a good thing that can turn into a business. So thinking, I don't know how helpful thinking like a business from day one is, when you haven't really nailed down what your creative niche for your thing and what you're good at is in the first place. Again, that's kind of my personal take on it. I'm not a I'm trying to be less of a sort of professional advice channel because I'm just a person with some perspectives, and I don't exist to de-risk other people's businesses for them, you know. If you've made the foolish decision to become a professional game developer, the best way to make some money from that is get employed by someone else. That's what I did for most of my 30s. It was pretty miserable. People say, oh, there's no jobs out there. There are jobs out there. They're just not making fun or interesting games. And that's what I've spent most of my career doing, making games that I didn't enjoy, didn't really care about that much. Had fun making them sometimes, had fun working on them, but very little professional experience of getting paid to make something that I really care about. And if you want to make money doing games, that's what you need to do. That's literally how employment works. You do something you don't want to do because someone else with money wants it done. And yeah, people want all of this advice on like how to make it, how to do a thing, and in the most risk-free way. And it's like you can't de-risk something creative. Developers become market leaders at stuff by doing an unusual thing that they just happen to be the best at doing. But that, you know, you can't make everything evidence-driven and data-driven when you're trying to do something that no one else is doing, which is how you have a hit. So I'm reading at the moment for the podcast. We've got anyone who's new, we've got a podcast called the Game Developers Library, where myself and Tom, who's a friend and a game developer local to me, we read through books that are about game development or things that can help game developers. Sometimes they're about something else, you know, art or general creativity or whatever. We're reading Up, Down, Up by Kim Nordstrom at the moment, which is based on interviews with a bunch of different CEOs from different types of game companies. It's got like Emily Short from Kit Fox, a bunch of people from King, like lots of different types of game companies, indie companies, casual free-to-play companies, AAA companies. And there's a concept in there of like the proven and the promise. And it is like when you are starting a business doing something, you make a promise about what you're going to try and do in the next year or the next 3 years or whatever. And it should be based on something that you know you can do. And you're going to scale up the thing, right? But you shouldn't base your promise of what you're trying to do on something that you haven't proven that you can do yet. And that sounds really obvious, but lots of people don't get it. It's like, you know, if you're going to put 2 years of your time into making a game, it should be a game that's already proven in some way. So you've already made like a game jam version of it, and at least, I don't know, a dozen people were excited about that and said, you should make this into a proper game. If you can't get that initial excitement about something, maybe it's not a proven idea yet, and you're just sort of like falsely believing in it because you don't want to change track and do something else. Okay. So I'm going to try and fix the spikes so that they actually do damage to the player. And they also float sometimes. They shouldn't float. But I was finding they were floating. You do need to be delusional to get the experience in the first place, you're right. I don't know, I'm someone that enjoys processes, so although like if I make a game or I make a video or I make some music, I would like it to be successful so that the time I put into it pays off. But usually I wouldn't be doing it in the first place if I didn't enjoy the process. And I think there are lots of people trying to make a career doing something where they don't enjoy the process. And the first step really should always be working out which processes you enjoy, which is why, you know, going into game development, when you spend your first couple of years in it, you're really just jumping around between all the sub-disciplines and going, am I a level designer? Am I an artist? Am I a programmer? If I'm a programmer, am I more interested in programming characters and cameras and movement, or am I more interested in programming interfaces? And even though your objective might not be to get a job in a big studio, you should still be thinking about that, because if you plan to make a game on your own, the best way to make a game of like a good quality is to work out which 2 or 3 things you're really good at and design a game that is based around you focusing on those things, right? I always use this example, but Lucas Pope, who made Papers, Please, he was like a AAA interface guy before he made that game. And that game is an incredibly interface-driven game. It is a spot the difference game with a kind of deliberately clunky interface. It's all interface design. That's an example of the sort of thing I'm talking about. You work out, game development is such a broad thing, and if you're trying to make a game in a small team or on your own, or even in a big team, like look at specialist studios. I'm playing Deathloop at the moment. Arcane, in the last 10-15 years, have made lots of games that are iterations on the same thing, because you make your engine, you have your pipelines for doing certain types of things, and even if you've got a studio of 100 people, you make what you're good at. And I think early on people try and do everything, and that the goal of that early stage when you're trying to do everything shouldn't be to make a game. It should be to work out what type of game suits your skill set. But I think a lot of people never really hit the point where they're being introspective enough to work out that that's what they should be trying to do. They just like plow ahead with trying to make the game. And I think some people are just very goal oriented, very like output oriented. Can't relate really. Excited. Yeah, the polarizing comments. That's a really good point. I don't know. I think Arcane Blade game could be pretty darn good. Yeah, that's true. Um okay, so the spikes are occasionally hovering. Not quite sure why that is. One of the things I haven't done is given the player and the other kind of characters or things that can be hurt a parent class, and I'm gonna try and do that just so I can make things like collisions with the spikes a bit easier. Object. Yeah, I'm gonna make because they don't currently have a parent object for that. Although, yeah, I think I'll do it on a case-by-case basis, because we've got stuff like the bats, and they fly, and I don't think them flying slowly down into spikes should kill them, so I'll just make this bespoke for each thing. Okay, so if the spikes collide with a character, with the player, is triggered by this, and if other, we're gonna check if the player character is falling. And I had this set up before, and sometimes if you jumped like right next to the spikes, you would get hurt. And really, we want it to only happen when you fall down onto them. So if the V speed of the player is more than 2, which means sort of moving downwards, and I think we've got a thing, frames in air. Yeah, there we go. Got a global for player life. One of the things I need to do at some point, which I'm probably not going to do today, but I need to go through and redo all of the screen shake, because I was doing it in a very manual way, and I since found out that Game Maker has a built-in one that I haven't been using, and it's probably more performant, so I need to do that at some point. I don't have a very good spike sound. So we're going to play the ouch sound, which is just plays whenever the character gets hurt. Which is, I think it's actually still a sort of generated 8-bit sound. Yeah. Really need like a kind of sword type slashy sound when you land on those spikes, but let me see if that works. I think what's going to happen is because I haven't set any kind of... Oh no, actually, I know how to do this. I've got an invulnerability window for the player character. Sorry, I'm not very awake today, which is what's taking me a while to get. It's taking me a while to get my head around anything today. There we go. Okay, that took a health off. Did it take 2? It's happening twice. That's interesting. Oh, it doesn't respect the invulnerability window. So we'll do that here. There's like I only recently started to get my head around like conditionality order. So if there's a thing that's more likely to happen than you or more likely to get ruled out, you put it first. Less than or equal to 0 frames in air. Okay. But yeah. I usually start streaming about 10 in the morning. It's not the best time for like being available internationally, but part of the reason I do it is so I can do it at the same time every week. Because if I streamed in the evening, then basically I have my kids week on, week off. And that makes it very hard to have a consistent streaming time that isn't when they're like getting ready for bed or something. So I do it when they're at school. And then that means I can stream the same time every week. It's not ideal, but if they're a bit older, I would have it at a different time, but yeah, streaming at like 8 in the evening would be the best because then it's a sociable time for people in various different time zones compared to me, but I just can't do that at the moment. What am I testing? Right, we're jumping on some spikes. There's a weird sound glitch when I get hit by that arrow. Right, that triggered multiple times. Let me check the... Check how the invulnerability should be working. I'll just draw it on the player for a moment, actually. That's probably the best thing to do. There's my little debug that I always come back to for drawing one of the player's variables so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, Stanley, I should do that. But it would require re-engineering so much stuff that at this stage I don't think... Okay, the invulnerability thing is not setting at all when I do that for some reason. Let me just test that again. The rooms are made by me, yeah. So like when you go to build a room, the room is like a card, right? It's a deck of cards. It's like a deck. It is a deck builder, really. I build these rooms and then the player puts them down. So it is really just the blueprints, but a platformer. And that's neat because it means I do a little bit of level design in making these spaces, but I don't have to think about the whole, how it all links up because that's the player's job. That's what they're doing. That's their gameplay. So, okay. So invulnerability window is working when I get bitten by a bat. It goes up into a positive number. That's our invulnerability window. They just bit each other. It doesn't really show very well when that happens. So the invulnerability window is working there. Oh, I know what's going on. I'm doing a stupid. It's because I added it instead of set it. So the invulnerability should be set to 100. That should do it. Yeah, so there is a starting deck of rooms, and then there are blue rooms, which are like metagame upgrades. They're the things that it would take you hours and hours and hours to unlock. But then once you've got them, they're always in your deck. And then there are gold rooms that you get from finding maps. So all of the standard stuff that you start off with is kind of like generic fantasy dungeon stuff, and then the game kind of gets weirder and weirder in terms of what it shuffles in. So the blue rooms are like science fiction, Metroid type things. And then, yeah, the red rooms that are the bad rooms that you generally don't want are these kind of scary bio-horror. Again, kind of Metroid-y. So we've got our Vania over here. Here's our Castlevania, and then we go over there, and there's our Metroid. So I didn't set out to make a Metroidvania, but it probably has more Castlevania and Metroid vibes than most Metroidvanias at the moment, because I have a bit that's a castle and a bit that's a scary biological horror type alien place. Okay, let's test the spikes. Spikes work. I feel like if you're standing next to the spikes and the bats dive bomb you and come down really fast, that should kill them. So I'm not being a very good engineer here, and I'm being very like doing everything in a very bespoke way. But also, I don't intend on having loads of different types of mobs. You know, we're going the Mario route. We have a couple of enemies, and they have a kind of distinct character and how they move and stuff like that. And that's it, really. I need to check my... I've got a script for every type of combatant that is doing some stuff. I just need to check that it works for what I'm trying to do here. I should handle it here, really. Yep, that should work. Cool. Yeah. Honestly, if I'm still working on this in 4 years and it needs that much refactoring, I will use what little money I make from YouTube to pay someone else to do it. I've already done that with this project. So there is someone called Juju Adams. Thank you, Juju, for your help on this so far. And Juju is quite well known in the Game Maker community. Does things like... Oh, that's weird. That background shouldn't be drawing there. Does porting for Game Maker games. And also is like someone that comes in and fixes people's poorly coded, poorly optimized Game Maker games before they launch. And has been doing that for years. And I said, hey, Juju, I can't do physics. Will you please spend a day making my physics better and my controller inputs? And Juju did that. So already done some outsourcing with this project, and I don't feel any shame about that because I'm a game designer and I'm not a programmer, and there are certain bits of programming that I just brain completely wipes out on. So I've learned a lot already doing this project. I've learned about structs, which was something I didn't know about or how to use when I started this. Yeah, there's lots of things I've learned. I've learned how to use the debugger. I've been using GameMaker for 5 years. I've never got to the point with the project where I've actually needed to optimize it. And in the past couple of weeks, I've had, you know, like this lighting system that we've built that is very pretty. It's it's more there for mood than anything. You know, I didn't make it super dark around the edges. It's not there to actually obscure your view or make you require a torch. It is there to add some color and some variation and to make the lights feel more part of the world. But this system was quite expensive. I've had to re-optimize this a few times, and that was all new learning for me. And this is why I always find it so funny when people kind of come in the stream and go, "Why are you using Game Maker? Why aren't you using whatever I prefer?" And it's just like, how long does it take to get proficient in a game engine to the point where you can make a game that actually looks like a game? I don't want to do that again. Yeah, I have certain game ideas that I would love to learn 3D for, but I would probably never use another game engine to make a 2D game unless it was like a visual novel and I was using Ren'Py or something. What happens if we jump up there? Does that... Yes, good. Okay, spikes work. That's cool. So now we're gonna just check out what happens with fire. Oh, the invulnerability counter will just keep going down forever because there's nothing in place to stop it going any lower. But I can turn that off now. The check is just basically, is it less than 0? And then something can be hurt. Yeah, Aki, that's a good idea. I will probably need to put that in at some point. When I get to the point where I'm really trying to balance the deck and the economy, I will definitely need that sandbox mode. I think having a text input in the game itself would be helpful. Yeah, we used Unreal for the game jam last month, and oh, that was not fun. And it's funny because I've used Unreal before. I worked on a project. We made a Fortnite map for Spotify, and we had to use UEFN, which is like a tool for making Fortnite maps in Unreal. And I found that really easy to learn, at least not initially easy, but something about there being a big toolkit of pre-existing stuff to play around with, and you can, it's just like using an old level design kit that you would have got for like Half-Life or something like that. And that was really easy and really fun. But trying to do an Unreal project from scratch when you have to kind of do the whole pipeline and put the assets in yourself and stuff like that was just like pulling teeth. It is so set up for a particular type of art and everything like that, and I just wanted to put low poly models in and slap textures on and stuff like that, and it was just like, no, this is not what this is for. You must care about all of these different types of UVs and stuff. So it's just not even the game engine per se, but its focus on technical art in order to create visually realistic things was just like not what I needed at the time. Yeah, that was my experience with it. Okay, so what we're trying to test right now is whether we can burn stuff down in the red rooms. Because one of the... We have a kind of fire system where I can pick up a torch. I can use it to light things. Okay, we've got a fire that's just hanging in space there. So I need to make that not happen. So I think when a fire is in that condition, it needs to turn into something else and fall down. Maybe it just turns into a torch. I don't know. So I can't really test trying to burn the red rooms around until I've got a renewable light, a renewable source of fire. Ah. Yeah, having to pay the engine owner for, for publishing a game that is really successful is a luxury problem. It's like, oh, what if I hit oil in my garden? It's like, well, it's probably not going to happen. So worry about it when it happens. That's a luxury problem. I don't think you should make decisions based on the very small likelihood of a luxury problem, you know? Okay, we've got a fire up there. And what I should do to what I'll do in a minute is I'll just put a campfire in the main room, and then that makes this easier to test. Okay, so we've got a cauldron lit now, which gives us a renewable fire source. I'll just go in here and beat these guys up. Get rid of this egg. Throw the egg into space, because we don't want it to hatch into another monster. And then we need a torch. Okay, I need to set this up so it's going to be easier to test. So I will just go to my room, which is still called room test, even though it is basically the main scene for the game. And I will never rename it. And bonfire. There you go. Have a bonfire. Have a torch. I'll give you 3 in case you lose one, because I know what you like. Everyone I know who is learning Godot has got on really well with it and is happy with it, so I cannot speak well of it from practice, but everyone in the community who's using it is having a good time. I would say that the real use case for learning Unreal or Unity over Godot would be if you want to get a job rather than make your own games, right? So if you are like a programmer, or you know, whatever really, technical designer, level designer, and your aspirations aren't just making your own kind of hobby projects or trying to make your own indie game on your own, and you want to get a job in a game studio, then I would say learning Unreal or Unity is still probably the way to go. I know Godot is getting used more places now, but it's still relatively rare. And then which one would come down to what kind of studio culture you want to be part of, because jobs using I mean, I feel like Unreal still has the sort of reputation of being the zombies and guns game engine. And if you want to work in a studio that makes anything a bit more cute or artsy, then it's more likely that they're using Unity. But you know, that will change. I don't think it will change so much with Unreal, because Unreal has such an emphasis on being like a graphical realism engine and an engine for making like movie VFX and stuff like that. So I don't think that will stop being the zombies and guns game engine anytime soon. But those are the associations I have, and I think if you wanted to get a job rather than make your own games, then I think those are going to still stand for a little while, for a few years. Might change, but those things are slow to change. Oh, did you eat that? You ate that monster for me. Thank you. Okay, so the chunks are catching fire, but they're not destroying. And the problem is I started coding this and then I completely forgot how it works. So what we want is for you to be able to come into a room like this, burn down these fungus things, you know, throw the torch in his mouth, he explodes. Real kind of like I'm on a Warhammer witch hunt and I'm burning down the chaos type stuff. and then I accidentally drop my torch and burn a hole in the floor and fall through and die. That is the desired user experience for what I'm doing now. You can feed the mouth, yeah. I was originally made it so the mouth spawns over a door and it turns that red room into a dead end. And I was originally thinking you'd just feed the mouth a bunch of times and then it would go away. But I've recently changed it so feeding the mouth, if you feed it a few items, it shuffles more red rooms into your deck. And that's not a good idea generally. You don't want more red rooms in your deck. But there are certain types of run where it's beneficial to do it. So if you think of in Slay the Spire, when you play as the first character, the Ironclad, there is a sort of curse run where you deliberately put loads of curses and status effects in your own deck and then profit off of them. There is a run in this that does that. There are certain relics that if you pick them up, they give you way more coins for doing stuff with the red rooms, for spawning more red rooms, for defeating more monsters and stuff. So there is a case where you would want to feed the mouth and load your deck up with red rooms and build as many red rooms as possible. But that's like an advanced strategy thing. One of the approaches I've been taking while developing this is I try and make all of the stuff that you would experience in the first 10 minutes of the game good, and then I jump forward in time and make something that should exist at the end of the game or something that should exist in the middle, and I try and jump back and forth between those points so that it's kind of even and I've got a sense of what the player is trying to build towards. So I'm always thinking about what these later game strategies are of like, okay, generally you don't want more red rooms, but what is the build you can do where that would be beneficial, and how do you achieve it? So having that mouth as a monster you can feed in order to deliberately increase the amount of red rooms is a weird kind of edge case strategy, but it's the sort of strategy that some players will use, and then they'll get like a crazy big payout from taking the high risk reward thing and making their run more dangerous. So I still need to play Noita. It's on my list. I need to do a stream where I just play indie games that I've been meaning to play for a very long time. Okay, I'm just gonna look at all of my code for burner. So I made this object called a burner, which is like a little instance thing that has a sort of range and a power level and stuff, and is used to light other things. And the problem is I started making this system to try and make it generic, and then I just end up needing a sort of bespoke thing for everything it interacts with. So everything that's got a fire on it currently has one of these objects called a burner that's attached that is used to light other things. But I haven't quite got it to the point where I really understand what this strength variable means. The burner records its parent instance, which stops things like the fireball from hurting the player when the player gets the fireball upgrade, which is kind of like a Mario fireball. You jump in the air and fire it down at the ground and it bounces along. And then I'll take a look at the code for the fungus blocks, those red blocks, to see what is going on with those. So that's super old. That's like my old version of... Okay, so this has a script running called burn self, which anything flammable is doing every turn. And I think I know how to approach this. So I'm going to make it so that when one of these fungus blocks spawns, it has a block life, and then we'll use this burn self script, which is running on any object that should be affected by fire. Okay. So anything that is burnt creates its own burner, and that's what allows fire to look like it's spreading. And then what we need to do is, if this is probably a really inefficient way of doing this, but let's just do it and refactor it later. My short-term memory is terrible. Is that how I formatted that variable over there? No, it's... I'll underscore it. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. If block life is less than or equal to 0, destroy self. Okay, go in here. That's not really working. I think it is burning because it seems to be spawning those particles. So let's get those to draw their own block life and see if it's actually doing anything. That's always a good start. We love technical debt. Okay, yeah, it is burning. It's just maybe it's just a way too high a number. Okay, and burners have a concept of strength, which is like a percentage. So maybe what we can do is if a block has life and it's being counted down, what we'll do is 10 times nearest burner dot strength. Maybe let's make that 100 first and see if that's always better to make something too extreme and tone it down from there. Okay, cool. We can purge the scourge. It needs to sort of go up in smoke, or yeah, it needs to have a bit more happening on it when we we've got a flame particle and a sparks particle, so let's do both of those and we'll alternate between them. And we'll do 12. Just make it more visually distinct and obvious when something is on fire. But now it's happening to the torches and they look too on fire. I don't really mind having to do lots of bespoke stuff for different objects if it's all in the same script. Now, the problem there is that we can't really, without that number there, we can't really see that it's getting damaged. So maybe we need to like blacken it or something. Yeah, that's very much my experience of they look good when they're on fire. That's my experience of blueprints as well. I started out with the drag and drop in Game Maker, and then I didn't need it after about 6 months. I think the problem for a lot of people is you think you need the programming syntax in your head, and you don't. You just need to look things up a lot, and you know, you look things up, and then eventually things stay in your head, and then you have to look more complex things up. But you always have to look something up. Like the idea that a good programmer is someone that never has to look things up is often the thing that puts people off of making the leap, because they think that they need to learn everything and internalize it, and you don't really. You internalize bits of it by accident as you look it up for the 100th time. I can finally eat the food as well. There we go. Eat the steak. So yeah, we need a way of making these look like they're taking more damage. Luckily, because it is this kind of weird moving thing, maybe we can do something with movement on just the fungus blocks. And try something silly. They're going to spin round as you're damaging them. Is that 00 going to break the code? Apparently not. Okay. Please don't eat me, Mr. Mouth. I think maybe they just need to burn down a lot quicker as well. Or if I have a look at, okay, they make their own burner there. Maybe this is like hacking together two different things that don't really fit, but see, the reason I couldn't learn Unity blueprints is I hate anything that looks like cables. Anything that reminds me of like a floor full of guitar cables, I'm like, nope. Makes my brain unhappy. Get OCD about it and end up reorganizing the cables all the time. Oh. Yeah, I think I really just need these to burn down quicker. That we need a bit of sound when it's happening. And maybe some smoke. Some smoke that's coming off the top. And that should double the burn rate and add a little bit of well, that's now put smoke on the torches, which we don't want. Smoky torch. Okay. So what I'll do here is put it here so it's only on the blocks. I'll put it here so it's not every frame. Thank you for whoever explained how to use mod recently. This has been a lifesaver for making things run less often to do some very quick optimizations. Fairies will almost certainly be able to pick up torches and start fires. Yeah, they just kind of randomly play with any objects they come across. It looks like they're doing it on purpose, but it is quite random. But yeah, it does look like they're being deliberately mischievous, which is quite nice. So we will get that, yeah. Right. So I don't know how this burn time variable works, so let's look it up elsewhere. Ah, I've used block life when I don't need block life. Let's use burn time, and then I can use that for everything. Oh dear. Because the point of the burn time variable is that a lot of my characters only have one life. They get hit and it's gone. So for a character like the egg bats, I want them to burn for a moment before they actually lose that one life, which is why I had this burn time variable. So I think I need to put that into my combatant scripts that they have a burn time. There, they've got it. And then we'll make our egg bats show their burn time so that we can debug this for a moment. And yeah, that should do it. I did the classic. I didn't look at the thing I needed to look at. Oh, I've got this in the wrong order. That's why they're not drawing their debug text. Okay, so they do not burn for very long. make something stay on fire for a bit longer when it gets burnt. And then we'll just do a... So this is all the generic stuff that happens to anything that can be burnt. And then we're going to have our... what I'm trying to do is... And again, bear in mind, nothing I do here is like best practice because I'm not a computer scientist or anything like that. But what I'm trying to do is create a script for everything that burns, and it has its set of generic things that happen first, and then all of the cases that are for a specific object type or specific class happen within that script as well. And then hopefully that gives me the best of both worlds. Is you know, I can have the generic and the specific together in one place. So if this is an egg bat, then we'll do this, and then I can tune the time it takes to burn an egg bat here. And we don't want this. We maybe want them to smoke, but not as often, because it will be really visually confusing. So this jar smash is just that smoke particle that I'm using to make it look like things are burning and having a bad time. And instance destroy should just trigger whatever the bat normally does when it dies, which will actually be turning into a piece of meat. And I might be changing that. I might keep the meat so that when it's uncooked, it still looks like a bat or a dead animal of some description. But I'm trying to work out how gruesome to go with that, because I don't want this to be too gruesome. It's kind of cutesy. Inventing inheritance the long way around, yeah. I mean, everything in Game Maker is switched to using structs for everything, and like injecting data into like blank objects and stuff like that, which is great, but it is so far removed from what you learn from the tutorials and like the interface of the IDE that it's a really steep learning curve, and I'm only really just started to scratch the surface of it. Whoa, that was cool. Okay, so that's because what happened there, it happened a bit too fast, actually. So maybe we need some like randomization to sand the edges off of that, because that can happen, which is fun, but it's slightly too fast. Okay. And so I do have a concept of fire resistance. Let's try that. Let's see if that does what I think it should do. I haven't checked. Haven't checked to see if that is set where it should be, but let's see. Okay, so every frame, if I make the fire resistance higher on that now, assuming it even has one, I think it does. I think yeah, so if I make this to like 95 to test the other, then it should only have a 5% chance each frame of catching. Really difficult. I think I've just got too many variables in different places now, unfortunately. Which is something I can fix, but not a very fun thing to fix on a stream. Let's make this much longer and see what happens. So this is the sort of life of the burner objects, which are the things that basically determine if anything close to the object will set on fire. Because what we want is for the red blocks to be primarily damaged by the torch, but then have a chance of setting on fire and damaging each other as well. But at the moment, that's just a little bit too high. Much too high, I would say. So we just need to play around with that. Because once one of them actually goes up and sets on fire properly, it seems to just all go really quick. Okay. So burn time should always be going down. This is what determines if a new burner is created. So if the thing actually goes up in flames. This is the destruction rate of the fungus stuff. And just catch that issue where the torch is just making too much fire. Because we want the flames to be really visible if it's not a torch, but if it's a torch, it's already doing enough through its basic animation. One of the things I've got on my to-do list is so the little orange number up here, that's how many cards are left in your deck, and that just went up. And one of the things I've got on my to-do list is I need some sort of notification for when that happens. Like at the moment, I don't have really anything up here to indicate that this is a deck of things. But it's also quite hard for me to present visually because the rooms are different sizes. Like in Blueprints, they are square tiles, and it's very easy to show that in a kind of board gamey type way. Yeah. So So yeah, that portal is one of the blue rooms that you won't initially have in your deck. We got some weird edge cases here, like I stamped over that there, and now the mouth is in a weird place. Can I just run through it? I can't remember how I set the collision up. No, that's good. It's also not detecting that I'm there and trying to eat me, which is weird, because it should do. Can the trees also burn? Probably. I think we need to work out what would be excessive. Because there's like, there's your kind of two use cases. There's what is the player going to want to do on purpose? And what is kind of funny or amusing for something to happen by accident, right? The trees burning could be intuitive, but like solid wood or wet leaves don't really ignite that easily. So it's not necessarily going to be super intuitive that would happen. One of the things I was thinking about was creating some more sorts of growths. So like a kind of spiderwebby or twiggy type thing that you might occasionally need to get through that you deliberately burn with a torch. Yeah, basically by making the fire work a bit better, we're creating a new solution, but we don't really have the problem for it yet. The red blocks you will want to burn out of the way if you've got a bigger level because they spread around the level, and I'm going to create other ways for them to do that as well. So I'll just show you this tentacle I was working on recently, which is going to be something that comes out of red rooms, but I don't have a... I haven't really made this work properly yet, but I'll just show you the effect. Because I want other way... Because the red blocks just sort of spread like a kind of noise algorithm thing at the moment. But I want them to have something like these bad boys where they can like... This is something I started building, but it really slows the game down because I haven't optimized how the particles draw yet. But this is like a tentacle that is drawing through other blocks and converting them into different sorts of things. I want to have more ways for the red rooms to like mess your level up, because the upgrade path in this game, the most simple upgrade path is just getting more keys. So you start off with more keys because you initially start off with 5, but if you tune it so you have 12 keys, the game changes pretty dramatically and you end up with this big Metroidvania level. So having some way of like really messing up the player's level with by destroying parts of it or blocking parts of it, I think that's going to end up being more interesting than your sort of like platformer combat type stuff, which is why I haven't leaned very hard into that, and I've just made it so you can just do a basic punch and most things take one hits. I think blocking the player or making them fall down is going to be more interesting, and having these kind of creatures that go around and sort of ruin the level will be cool. So yeah, these sort of wormy tentacle things, you can see it's really starting to slow the game down now because of how I'm doing the particles for that. But I do intend to have more stuff like that eventually. So there's that. And I think maybe having some like brambles or some less aggressive form of blocker. So maybe you go into a green room and occasionally there's like a thing of brambles and you have to like burn it out of the way could be good. Yeah, the red rooms are like it's supposed to be kind of like parasitic, you know, it grows and it takes up the whole level eventually and messes with you. That's fine, lawyer. Yeah, no, your game is cool. Please, by all means, like, if anyone's interested in what lawyer is talking about, please go and check out their channel or wherever you can follow the development of the game, because I think it's really cool. And I don't play many online multiplayer games, but I can see the kind of appeal of that one because it's like, you know, survival building together, but the thing you build is moving and functional, which makes it really interesting. I think that game is neat. Still want to organize a playtest of it on our Discord, but just the logistics of doing that with lots of people is hurting my brain. Okay. Our fungus can be burnt, which is good. I can turn off the burn time debug test. And what I will do is... let's put a... put a very small sound effect in here. sort of pitch randomized high pitched noise when you're burning the fungus blocks, just so there's a little bit more feedback. I don't like to go away and leave a feature without the feedback for the player to know what's happening. That's kind of my MVP for features, is can I see what is actually happening? And sometimes that means sound effects and being able to hear it as well. I can't hear that. Maybe it's a very, very tiny sound. Let's make it 500% louder. Yeah, the house moving castle type game. Yeah, that's what Lawyer is. That's Lawyer. That's that game. That's weird. Maybe it's this. Maybe this is breaking it. My torch disappeared that time. Another interaction that I used to have that isn't in here at the moment is you can like throw an axe up to a tree and chop the branch down, and the branch immediately becomes like an unlit torch. Let me just see if that sound is actually loaded in properly. Yeah, that should be it. Okay, what we're going to do is just make sure that those play that sound when they die. And I just need to make sure that it doesn't do it like when you're on the other side of the map. I haven't really learned how to do the positional sound on this, so I've been doing it my own way the whole time, which is not very effective. What was happening there? It's like the torch is getting blown up. This is getting really tangly. And the reason for it is because there's an overlap between the sort of stuff that's used for fire and just setting things on fire and the stuff that's used for causing damage. And because things don't really have like hit points, they just exist or don't. I have to do all these like kludgy ways of deciding how long it takes for something to break or destroy. Okay, that's a bit better. We've got some feedback. It makes some sound. You can see that you caused the thing and why. Now we need to make the big mouth burnable. I'm just going to do this one from scratch because I think all of the stuff I've tried to make generic is just getting more and more tangly, so... so much spaghetti. Okay, let's make it so that it will eat a torch or a fireball. It will actually treat that as if it's food. And then when it does, it will become on fire. Okay, so this is what we normally do to whatever food gets thrown into its mouth. And then we'll do the stuff for fire-based food. So we'll do a new else here. Else if object index equals torch. Ah. Oh, there it is. If it's a torch or a fireball, then do this. And that shouldn't interfere with anything else. And then, did I call it burning or on fire? Yeah. Then on fire is true now. And then we'll make it on fire, I guess. So I'll get all my particle stuff from elsewhere. then we do if on fire equals true and burn time is greater than 0, then do this. And then we'll do the destruction thing down here. And there's this really helpful little helper at the bottom of the menu that tells you all of the arguments for what you're doing. But I often have to resize the windows to make it show. And maybe that's telling me I should remember these things, but I will never remember it because my brain is broken. I'll just play a set of sound effects that I think will work. Yeah, I always forget to do my double because it is still recommended that you're supposed to do the double, but I've got so used to doing it the bad way because GML doesn't care that it is really, really difficult to remember. Okay, if we're on fire, then we have a particle system. We set it to... I'll do choose and give it a 3 and 4 chance to be sparks and 1 to be a flame. And then we play that. And that probably needs to be lots. So we'll do like 16 of those at a time because it's a big object. Yeah, there's lots of things where GML is very liberal with what it will let you do, and you're supposed to still do it the proper way, just in case you find some edge case where that doesn't work. But it's difficult because it's so permissive that you can just do it the wrong way for a very long time, and then you get in the habit, which is what I've been finding. Okay. Okay, if it's on fire and burn time is... Oh, we need to decrement burn time there. And then if burn time becomes low enough and it's still on fire, then it destroys itself. Let's try and kill a mouth. See if it works. So there will only be one mouth in any level, but it just has a random chance to spawn in each red room. So I have to just build until I see it. Again, this is the sort of thing that would be good to build debugs for, but I don't think the current iteration of the game... So my goal with the game at the moment is to get a more focused playtest ready for December. And I don't think the version I'm building at the moment is very focused on balancing. It's more based on the core game and checking the idea and seeing what's fun and what's not. So I'm not going to build any sort of debug stuff that helps me spawn particular things or anything until after I've done that, I think. Too many bats. probably need those guys to not always drop a meat as well, because it feels like it gives you too much. There should be a hunter that you can sell meat to, maybe. Making me go so far. Yeah, there's lots of bats at the moment. I just needed the combat to be a little bit more challenging for a while I got these feeling good. They still don't feel great. It's still not very... I need a bit more visual feedback when you whack things, I think. Eat your torch. Is that killing you? No, that's just the torch. Why are you not on fire yet? Okay. So I did set a torch as a type of food for you. And then... Yeah, maybe there could be a hunter that actually lives in one of the red rooms, like you're saying, like having them attached to each biome. Because at the moment, the merchant, the gnome appears in the second green room you build, and that's something the game doesn't tell you. But once you sort of work it out and know it, it's like something you can plan around. So yeah, he always just appears in the second green room you build. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a similar thing we could do with Hunter, but he lives in the red rooms, which seems like a bad place to live, but... Well, that was cool. I threw the torch through the fire and it lit it on the way. Emergence. So that relic I just picked up. This is the one that makes enemies drop coins, which is quite good. And that's one of the reasons why. See? They drop 2 little red coins and they're both worth 5 each. But the meat is getting in the way. You can't see it. I think having a character that is a hunter would be a good way to introduce a bit more sort of post-apocalyptic sci-fi, because the green rooms are supposed to be a bit more like a sort of Grimm's fairy tales thing. The hunter could be like a cool gas mask kind of Scavenger's Realm type character. Was it Scavenger's Reign? I'm thinking of the Netflix anime with all of this spooky alien biological horror stuff. Yeah, it is a kind of, the mouth is kind of an NPC, I guess. But yeah, you burn it or you feed it, and players will not know why they would want to feed it when they first start the game. They just go, "Oh, that seems bad. Why am I feeding it? It's a monster. It kills me." Right, seemed to eat the torch that time, but didn't set on fire. Maybe I just need to do things the simple way. Oh, mouth. Oh, mouth. If other dot lit equals true. And on fire equals false. On fire equals true. Duplicate it for fireballs. I really wanted the idea of it like actually eating the torch and then going up in fire afterwards, but I think it's going to just accidentally look like that anyway. So where's my fireball? There's my fireball. Right. Hot sauce. I like that idea, Seven. Honestly, anything where I can have story that is just like me shuffling one little comment into a list of things he can say is like yeah. It's good. Come on. There we go. Punching the torches is very fun. Okay. You can point out a chain is a sequence of loops as long as you accept that the meta level point I was trying to make in that video is that theory doesn't really exist and it's only as useful as what it allows you to understand. So part of the reason I made that video was I previously talked about game loops, and I realized some people learn game design theory as if it's a real kind of set of rules or maxims, and then they get very upset if you tell them that their pet theory isn't useful in a particular instance or something like that. So I was really trying to get people I was trying to mock the idea of someone being really enthusiastic and into a particular theory, and then, you know, my phone just went at me. I thought I was talking to it. Oh, there we go. It's on fire now. Cool. Sound effects pretty good for that. I think it can die a lot quicker. Let's bring that down there. And then when it is on fire, we need to make so let me just see how that is set up in terms of its hitbox, because the way we spawn those fires. Okay, so it needs to be, that's the X, and then we need to add an amount on based on which way it's facing, which is fun. That's not too hard though. Plus 48 times image X scale. That's the one. And then that should be a random range. So random range between X and that. And that should make the fire appear all over it. Reading the manual. One of the reasons why I've never done technical tutorials on how to code is I've never been able to learn to code that way. Just try and do stuff, read the manual, then when you need to do higher level stuff that's not in the manual, talk to people and ask them. That's it. That's it, really. A lot of it's problem solving, so I remember having a student once came into the first level of a game dev course, and we often had students that had never coded. I mean, 70% of our students had never coded. And so when you got one who had, it was kind of a relief. You would think, oh, this one already knows how to do stuff. And they had followed a bunch of tutorials online and made like quite an interesting looking game. And I thought, well, this student will be ahead because they can do this. And they couldn't work out how to do anything for themselves because they just followed step-by-step tutorials and not done any problem solving. So like the sweet spot is you work out a game you want to make and you sort of work out things for yourself. Like how do I get a character to move across the screen and stuff like that. And you have a... But it's very hard to get a sense for like what is a small amount of stuff when you haven't done it before. So the sweet spot is like you set yourself little games to make that are very much using a mixture of what you already know how to do and what you want to learn how to do. And the trick is really not to take anything for granted, because even as something as simple as making a character move around actually has loads and loads of different like parameters and choices you need to make and all of that kind of stuff. And it's why my game is so janky, because so much of it is done from scratch rather than using baked in stuff. Like the physics is starting to get really good, but that's only because Juju helped me and like fixed so much of what I'd broken. Was that poison gas I just got hit by, or did I get burnt by my own torch? I don't think I should be able to get burnt by my own torch. The pain sound when you jump on the spikes is too loud as well, so I'll fix that now before I forget, because that's the type of small thing I will forget about for ages. Yeah, so this one started off... I started off with someone else's platformer template. I was a few months ago, I was like, I should be working on a game. I should have some sort of game project. I hadn't been doing that for a while because I spent so much time on videos. And I downloaded like 5 different platformer templates and then just sort of compared them in terms of whether I could understand how they worked, what features they had. And I ended up taking this ZX Spectrum one that was built for making like Dizzy Egg type games and turning it into this. And yeah, that one was funny because it just had certain interactions that I needed that other ones didn't. So all of the extra stuff like the carrying objects and stuff just doesn't... I wouldn't want to make a platformer that doesn't have that in, because that's what allows you to do really kind of rich, almost ImSim type stuff. I'm trying to keep the interactions relatively simple in terms of what the player is doing with their hands, But yeah, without the ability to pick up objects and carry them around the map, I wouldn't be able to make this game. Okay, I'm gonna finish the stream in about 20 minutes. Sometimes when I do this dev stream, I go on a bit longer and I try and go for like 3 or 4 hours, but I have been fasting, and that means I have not had anything to eat. So I do need to stop soon and eat something, or I'm gonna cease to function. Let's do some character concepting very quickly, because I really like the idea of there being a hunter who is like a monster hunter, who is someone you can take the meat to, because then that we've got the gnome who buys your vegetarian dishes and the hunter that buys the other things, and I already have the functionality for a shop and like giving something to someone and they throw you coins. So maybe we can have a quick go at the hunter. So because I'm all coded out for the morning, I think. I love a chain of secrets, you know me. I really liked that in any online game I've played that had that in really was Sea of Thieves did that really well with their quests. They were designed to just not make any sense unless you were playing them with other people that were also invested in working out, you know. Okay, that's lem height. But we want the humans to be bigger. I think. What if it is like, maybe it's Red Riding Hood. Maybe it's post-apocalyptic Red Riding Hood. Just try and sort of get the general shape of the character and then see how big they look in the world if I put them into the world. Yeah, I don't know if the new guy will stay, but let's just, because I already did the kind of weird choice of making it. There's loads of meat that you pick up, and you can't do anything with it now unless you take it back to the boss, because I made the gnome a vegetarian, so Let's just get some ideas together for what our hunter would be like. They should probably have a little shop so they look not like they'd look like a not like a mobile character, because that's kind of what I designed the gnome the way I did and gave them a wagon, because I wanted it to be clear that they're not going to like get up and run around, you know. Hello. I quite like the idea of Red Riding Hood as a fire cultist in Stilettos. Yeah, that works. That works. Wagons famously are not mobile. Not when they're parked on the edge of a cliff. He has a habit of like, how did he get there? You know? How did he get his wagon there? He did some sort of magical jump up there with it or something. Or maybe the goats pulled it and now they're like, yeah, we're taking a break now. We're going to go down here and eat some carrots. Oh, we have full damage as well now. I put full damage in the other day. So if I just do that, yeah, that's too far. What I'm trying to say is, wouldn't Stardew Valley be better if you had to jump over a hole? That's the whole design thesis of this game. Wouldn't Stardew Valley be better if there was some horrific nightmare fuel in it and you could fall down a big hole and die? Many people would say no. I say yes. What are you doing? So that basically the goats have a ticker of how many items they've eaten, and when they've had 3, then they make a milk. But they also move around more if they're hungry, so that's why they sort of go into ice skating mode. I really need to make a proper walk animation for them, because at the moment the game just reads if they're moving, and if they're moving it puts them into that frame of animation. Which is 1 frame, which works okay when they're not moving too much, because it looks like they do 1 leap, but when they're moving a lot they just sort of fly. You? There should be a shop that gives you more money based on how far you throw the object. Okay, I think like some sort of hunter shop where the character is buying meats makes sense with the rest of the game. And we've got, we've got thinking in terms of taps and sinks. We've got a load of monsters that are creating stuff that we don't really have a use for. I quite like the idea of having more shops that you... because that means that depending on which merchant you get, you then need to change what you're doing in the rest of your run. So actually the hunter could be instead of the gnome, right? So the gnome is a garden gnome, and the gnome wants you to give them vegetables and fruit. And then the hunter is a hunter, and they want the meat things. And they could actually appear in the same spot. So if you build the second room, there's like a 50-50 chance you'll get the gnome or the huntress, and then that determines what thing you can make money out of on that run. So that's neat, because that feels like it's tying together the game economy, the deck building a little bit, because then based on which merchant you've spawned, you've got a kind of you prioritize what you build more. If you've got the red merchant, which is the huntress, then you would want to build more red rooms to spawn more monsters to make more money. So that kind of is neat. Yeah. Should they be a butcher then instead of a hunter? Quite like this character design. They're lazy. They've just given up on doing their job. They want. Are they going to be? They're going to be a Squid Game, aren't they? Oh no. Oh no! I'm turning into a Squid Game. Yeah, it's always the character that's there to teach you about that environment. Oh, I'm here to teach you about going in the red place. I'd go there myself, honest, just not when you're here. I don't know what I'm doing. Don't know what I'm doing at all today. That's fine. It does look like a trunk, yeah. What's the problem? Have you never seen an elephant person before? Never seen an elephant person with a trestle table before? I think what we're going to do is... What if we do like a... sort of medieval bodice type thing here. Trying to do Grimm's fairy tales and post-apocalyptic at the same time. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. It's going to be... This is just straight up a Kate Beckinsale character from a 2003 movie, you know? I'm alright with it looking like a skeleton. That's fine. I've got this very awkward size sprite where I can't do rounded eyes. Because it's just like going bigger than a 2x2 square is too big. Hang on. What if we did... Someone plays Helldivers once. That's just kind of cool. Kind of like that. You can see the pixel for the eyes is getting squished. There's some weird stuff going on with my aspect ratio with the pixel squishing. And I can't say that I care enough about it to try and do anything about it. Hello. Would you like some fire? Wonder if I should just go a bit taller and give myself a bit more real estate for the head. I'm gonna do it. Arr! Sometimes you just need to chop your character's heads off. The desk will eventually have some other things around it, you know, to make it... Because one of the things I need to do with the other shop, I need to make it clear what they buy. And I'm only still working that out, so I'm not going to lock it in too much. But they should have like a little sign or some indicator for what they buy. And then, yeah. I hadn't really had the idea before of having different shops that buy different sorts of things. But I think it might work with the deck buildery part of the game. So right, I'm just going to draw a big ass circle for your head, and then we'll see how that reads, and then we'll go from there. Hello. Should be able to jump on the table. That means I might be able to actually have a decent sized eye. Not that big. What about those? How much eyeball can we do? So we're going Warhammer head, Pirates of the Caribbean body. I think that's what we're going for here. Looks like a pig nose if I do that. Just standard Boston Tea Party outfit, yeah. Yeah, so the only reason I haven't put actual any spending coins... Oh, no, I have. So what I did before is I had a relic shop, and it was basically... Because the problem I was having was with the interface of spending coins, and I didn't want to have to like open up a menu, because I wanted to keep everything in the world. So what I did, and I don't have this yet, but I could put it in, is I had a relic shop, and you spend the coins, and then yeah, you basically, when you pick the relic up to put it in your inventory, it spends the coins, and if you don't have the coins, you can't do it. So I might introduce that as another kind of shop again, because I did sort of sketch it in before and then I took it out again. Maybe we can have a couple of different types of shop, and there's like a particular room that you spawn shops in, and it goes through the shops you don't have yet and puts one of them in. That feels kind of neat. Like it could work. What are you buying? What are you selling? Let's try and do the hood. I like the idea of a hood. It's kind of huntery. It's very derpy, but never get these things right the first time. You weren't there, man. You ain't seen what I seen. The dark red for shading these back bits, like there. Put some little darker bits in, and then get one that's sort of in the middle. Hold up. One day I'm going to have to answer what happens to these characters when you blow the level up, but for now, we'll just assume they're okay with it. They're fine, they're just sleeping. They're just sleeping. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do the dungeon synth for the last 10 minutes. I had 2 jobs. 1999 dungeon synth. Let's go some vintage. There we go. Some proper vintage. Secret stairway. Look at that. Such a kind of internet brain genre of music. It's hard to imagine that they existed in 1999, but here we are. I'm trying to do hair, but I can't really make the hair look like hair. The curse of this not being, just not enough pixels. I'm trying to do a corset. I want this to be like post-apocalyptic Red Riding Hood. Was the vibe I was going for. Maybe if I put a line down there, then it will read as a bosom. And then you'll stop misgendering my Red Riding Hood. There we go. Red Riding Hood, Monster Hunter. The classic anime that we all know and love. Do some power shoulders. Red Riding Psycho Mantis is a good. Yeah, that's good. I like that. It's gonna read your memory card. Hello, would you like a torch? When I punch a carrot and it's buried in the ground, it still slides along the floor, which is fun. It's a game where you punch meat. Just did the old superhero landing punch on that guy. That mouth has decided not to eat anything else. It's got stuck. I really need to go back to that code and check it at some point. Should I make it so that you can, quote unquote, accidentally set the maps on fire? That would be fun. Run in the library, punch a torch. The torch flies over your map to the treasure room. Is now gone. Right, I'm just going to do a couple of runs and then I will log off for the day, I think. So... 99 coins. That's really annoying. But at least I can cook this steak on a torch. Yeah, that's true. There's always enough pixels. You just need to be more good at it. Got the refectory. Can I get up there? Oh, I've got a bug on that piece of flooring that won't let me go through. That's annoying. Let's try and get the reliquary. That's interesting. It's given us a drop through there that goes back to the start of the level. That's cool. Is there somewhere I can use that? Yeah, down there. Ahaha! Okay. That wraith took health off, but he also shuffles voids into your deck. And again, that's the thing I need some sort of notification for. I don't want to do a pop-up that goes, this has just happened. I need to maybe put like a little skull and crossbones in the corner next to the deck, or just something to hint that something bad has happened without telling you in words in a kind of disruptive way, you know? I think whenever you get bad rooms added to your deck, it needs to tell you, but not in too much of a direct way. Okay, I can eat that steak now to get my health back. The ingredients give you 1 health and the kind of cooked meals give you 3. You can kill the wraith with the fireball, I think. I don't think I've made the torches work on it. Basically, you just have to run away from them until they despawn. That's the deal with the wraiths at the moment. The arrow traps aren't very good at actually hitting you. Ah, fairies. I'm going to take your milk. Starting to slow down a little bit, so I'm gonna have to some point this week do another pass with the debugger and work out what it is that is kind of eating the game at this stage. I do think maybe just having some sort of thing where things get broken and degenerate and there's less blocks the longer you play could make the game more interesting and also help me with my memory management stuff. I think there are just too many instances because I haven't done things through tile maps. But it wasn't this bad until I introduced the custom lighting, because it's doing lots of distance checking and then overdrawing the sprites with coloured versions of themselves and stuff. Yeah, so I won't do it now because it's not very exciting, but what I will do next time I have enough time to get stuck into it properly is run the game with the profiler on and then just see which things are doing the most calls. And then look at how I can optimize those. Look at that. What's going on there? Got some strobing going on there. That hurts my eyes. We're gonna go home. Have some milk, boss. Can get an upgrade. I love using a berry to set off a trap. Ooh. Okay. I think a torch spawned and then got stuck in the thing and destroyed itself before it could make its light source. But I am too brain dead to fix that today. Right, folks. I'm gonna chip off because I've got videos to edit. I still need to finish doing the music video game jam video. It's like 80% of the way there, so that might come out a bit earlier. I might get that out on Friday. The video showing some of the game jam games. I didn't do all of them. I think I show them all, but I don't talk about all of them because there's just too many. But yeah, that should be cool. And well done for everyone who did take part in the music video game jam. I know it was a whole month ago now, but I'm only just getting around to the point where I'm doing the videos. Part of that was I wanted to include the artist reactions, so I've been editing those together last couple of days, and that will be out, if not Friday, it will be out on Monday. Yeah. See you all soon, and I hope